Welcome back one more time here on the Roundtable program for this Sunday. So glad to have with us once again Doc Treese, Doc David Treese, joining us from Treese Investments, looking at a plan to privatize Toledo Express, Toledo Executive Airport. Doc, you alluded to the fact that there have been some reports out there, negative reports that you guys have faced. I wanted to bring up real quick and get your reaction. An editorial that was in the Blade, you alluded to it. Keith Burris wrote that this past week, and you can look at the screen and see some of the mentions that were in there. Many Madoffs, you were called. They are wannabe movers and shakers, wheeler dealers who cannot wheel and will not deal. And then it continued on. The Treeses are low on information, humility, and allies, but long on bluster. They are getting their name brand out there, but they come off looking more like actors than players. You guys taking this lightly?
Well, I mean, you never like to see your name besmirched in the media or in the paper. But in like form, literally the next day, this guy came back and wrote an article that we need people with new ideas and new concepts and people to step up and lead Toledo forward into the future. So,
were you mentioned in the second day article?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
So, you know, you have to say, is this about our idea and our concept, or is this a personal vendetta? And frankly, I think it's a personal vendetta.
Why?
It goes back a long time, and I'd rather not go into it, but it's a personal issue between me and one of the editors. And so I think that they have not got any argument against the plan. Mm-hmm. They have an argument against me, and it's spilling over against my sons, but it is not a valid argument that we should not look at this. We met with a number of political types, and I'm not going to name them because part of the agreement to meet with us was that we wouldn't go and talk public about it. And they were, to a person, positive about the concept, not necessarily about our plan or not necessarily about us doing it, but about the concept. And the negative editorial hit in the Blade, actually Burroughs was not the first one, there was another one, and politicians being politicians, they all got cold feet. And so now they say, well, you know, we don't know what we're going to do, maybe we shouldn't look at it. But my question is, where's the alternative plan? Mm-hmm. Show me somebody with an alternative plan. There isn't one. And the trajectory that the Toledo Airport's on is not a pretty one.
Well, if I could respond to that as well. In my opinion, the editorial that you alluded to is downright defamatory. And I don't think there was any reason for it, and I think it is outrageous, and I think it's a real shame that there are people in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan who don't have jobs. And here is a group of people stepping up, wanting to do something positive that will create jobs for people in this region, and high-paying jobs, and it's a personal vendetta.
I got to ask, because this past semester I've been teaching a law and ethics class. You used the word defamatory. Does that mean a potential lawsuit?
I don't think we're going to go that route. In my mind, that would distract us from something very positive that we're trying to do, and honestly, I don't see any reason to go that route. I would rather focus on the positive and what we see as a great opportunity for Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan, and I want to do all I can to support this community. But at the same time, the inconsistencies are a bit disturbing. You read one piece one day that says that Toledo needs strong private sector leadership and developers and people willing to stand up with ideas and put their own capital at risk, and then somebody actually does it, and suddenly there's nothing good about that concept, and to have age be a particular concern, I think is a bit unnecessary. Okay, so what's the message we're sending to people in Northwest Ohio? It's all well and good for kids to work hard in school and learn all they can and probably pay their own way through college, probably even borrow to do it, but don't bother having a good idea before you're 30, because no one's going to get behind it.
Let's talk a little bit about, I want to hit those bullet points once again, and I also want to talk about the leadership role and what does it play, if any, Doc and Doc David, going forward when you lose somebody at the helm in Mike Bell, who really, I guess, he campaigned, he focused a lot of his time on being a regional mayor. Mike Collins comes in to office in January. Do you see a partner in Mike Collins in this plan, or does it not matter in the long run?
Well, we certainly hope so. I mean, obviously, you need the support of people like a Mike Collins to make this thing work. Actually, I guess it could be passed by City Council without his support, but I don't see that as very likely. But, you know, Mike has indicated that he has an open mind about a lot of things. As a matter of fact, one of the articles, he said that we needed to look at doing something different at Toledo Express Airport. And that's all we're saying is let's put this on the table, let's discuss it. We know enough about the aviation business that if they decide to go out for a request for proposal, we know what they're going to get back. We know what this industry demands. We have offered to come in for nothing, to put up our own capital, to cover the deficit, and split the profits in the form of land sales with the city. Another operator that will come in is going to demand somewhere between $150,000 and $400,000 a year to operate the airport. The city is still going to have to pick up the deficits, and yes, they'll split the profits if there are any. Gary, Indiana is right now going through exactly the same thing, and that's the deal they got. So does the city of Toledo want to continue to pay for the deficits and pay an operator, or let us come in where we're not charging them anything and we're covering the deficits and splitting the profits with them?
One of the things you point out, and we've talked about it again before we came out here today, you talked about this isn't about us making money off of this. This is about bringing opportunity into the area. You talked about putting your own capital up to get this thing going. How much are we talking in the ability for this, the viability for this airport to bring in annually?
Well, at its peak, under Bax, I don't know, it was bringing in probably $4 or $5 million a year. Is there the potential there for that?
What's your forecast? I mean, you said there's a 10-year forecast, didn't you?
We've built a very conservative 10-year forecast that I think ends up netting out somewhere between $90,000 and $100,000 a year for the next 10 years.
Thousand or million?
Oh, no, 1,000.
Okay.
And that is...
No, you said 1,000. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and that's without us bringing in any new substantial development like a military contractor or a large aircraft refurbishing company or a maintenance repair overhaul facility for an airline. Something of that magnitude would obviously boost that number. But in terms of personal gain, and you hit on something, we are not a charity organization. We are doing this for profit. But this is not something that we anticipate taking over, making a bunch of money in the first 2 years, taking out the profits and walking away. Part of our goal here, part of our goal is to make these airports both self-sustaining, and that may not mean that we get paid for a little while, but we want to do what we can to create jobs for the region.
Doc Treese, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us today. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
We'll be back right after this.